Hey, it's Megan with Real Broker, and we are in Palm Coast prepping for Hurricane Milton. It's going to be impacting the West Coast. It sounds like the worst for sure, but here we are still in a coastal city, so I thought it was important to take a few minutes to talk about some hurricane prep and what we're expecting potentially, and just give you some tips because one thing that I've discovered is I'm astonished how many people actually relocate down here, and as soon as a hurricane comes, they have no idea what to do. They'll go on social media, they'll ask for help, and unfortunately on social media sometimes there's a lot of bad information and just inaccurate information out there as well. So starting from the top, my first tip for you dealing with hurricane prep is to watch the weather, pay attention, watch for updates, so that way you are aware of what to expect for what's coming in this area. Flagler County emergency updates, that is a really important thing to be aware of. So online you can look for updates. There's tons of information. They're going to talk about evacuation zones. It's important, if you're in an evacuation zone, know your area. Know if you're in a flood zone, because all of those things might impact if you need to leave or not. And that way you know how to handle the storm, or if you decide to stay, you can make an informed decision. All right, so let's start with the basics. As far as the tips go, you've got to stock up on tons of toilet paper. Just kidding. I don't know why everybody runs to the store and grabs toilet paper, but it happened here in Palm Coast just a couple of days ago. Literally, Walmart shelf was empty from toilet paper. However, they still had some at other stores, like Dollar General and Aldi and places like that. But nonetheless, I'll never understand the panic over toilet paper that has ensued anytime there's an upcoming concern, a storm, ever since the pandemic. So anyway, good thing to have. You don't want to run out, but it's not really something you need to stock up 6 months supply of or anything crazy. So have cash. It's really important if people lose power, stores lose power. If you need to go get gas, if you need to leave here after a storm, you're going to need cash. So make sure that you have cash. Know where your important documents are, have them available, have access to them. That way, if you need to leave, you have all of your stuff in one place and you can go quickly. All right, fill bathtubs with water. That's kind of simple if you need it to flush toilets or things of that nature. It's just an easy thing you can do. Also have a weather radio. So I've got an example right here. This is our weather radio. We got it off of Amazon. It's really affordable, good to have if you lose power. We've used it when we lose power in the past. Luckily, we don't lose power very often, hardly at all. So hopefully we won't again, but we'll see what happens. Flashlights, battery lanterns, and extra batteries. So make sure that you have these things. So have plenty of extra batteries, because you never know, you could lose power and be out of power for days. So it's not fun being trapped in the dark with no lights. All right, so let's move on. And I'm sorry, I'm going to read off my list. A gallon of water per person per day for at least 7 days. And also make sure you have at least 7 days of non-perishable items. So especially if you don't have a way to cook, having plenty of canned foods is a good idea. Make sure you have a can opener as well, a hand-operated can opener. That way you can actually eat your food. So that's really important. Make sure before the storm comes that your phones are fully charged. Have your gas tanks full in your car in case you do end up needing to leave, or you need to leave after the storm. And before the storm gets here, make sure well in advance you fill any prescriptions, because if you have a medical need, you don't want to run out of medication 2 days into being without power, especially if the roads weren't passable. I don't expect that that's necessarily going to be the circumstance here, but it depends on the area and you just never know. We still don't know exactly where the storm is going to go. All right, let's talk about fortifying your home. So clear debris and potential projectiles. Another thing I've seen is people on social media putting things at the curb and for free, like they're clearing out their houses right before the storm. It's a terrible idea. Don't do that, because if that stuff is not removed, trash, is not going to be picked up at this point. If that stuff is not removed, that's a projectile. You could end up busting out your neighbor's window with a chair you set at the road, or whatever it is. So wait until after the storm to get rid of stuff. Don't put stuff out the day before we get hit with a hurricane. So anyway, clear debris. Make sure that you have all your stuff buckled down. Don't have a bunch of, random pots or random items outside that could end up being blown away into your neighbor's yard for other people to have to worry about, or even into your home. All right, sandbags. You can go and get sandbags for free. That's more information on Flagler County emergency updates that you can find there as far as the locations, the times. It may be a self-serve, or sometimes they will have even inmates filling bags and helping to hand those out. So that's pretty great to be able to get bags for free. Also, one thing that we did this time is we went and purchased our own sandbags from Home Depot yesterday. And then we had plenty of extra sandbags. So before the location actually opened for them to assist with filling bags and where they had their own bags to hand out before the county was handing out bags, we had our bags, and then it was a self-service thing where we didn't have to wait in a really long line. So that's another pro tip for you. All right, so let's talk about your windows and doors. So depending on where you're at, if you're on the barrier island, there's a good chance you're going to end up in a mandatory evacuation zone. And not just the barrier island, there's other areas, parts of Home Coast Plantation, areas off of John Anderson, near Princess Place Preserve. Again, all of that information is on Flagler County emergency updates. So nonetheless, it's really, really good to know where you're at. And especially in some of these coastal areas where we're expecting the highest winds to come right off the ocean, it's not a bad idea to board up your windows, especially if you've got an older home. So some people will ask, do I need to board up my windows? It depends on the house. Like, there's so many variables. That's such an open-ended question. I think it's a personal preference. You have to make the decision, but also think about your home. Do you have a home that is built to new code? Do you have impact windows? What kind of windows do you have? Are you in one of the original homes from the 70s with single pane glass windows? Because those are not going to be nearly as strong as some of the newer construction that have higher rated windows, So anyway, that's such an open-ended question. Make an informed decision for yourself. Do your own research. But nonetheless, I think better safe than sorry. So boarding up windows doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I've got to go spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get hurricane shutters. It could be as simple as plywood and hurricane clips. You can get these on Amazon. You can also get them at Home Depot and Lowe's, and they're not very expensive at all. Between that and some plywood, depending on the type of windows you have, you might be able to use this to secure plywood in front of your windows and help give that extra barrier, extra level of protection. All right, so of course there's more you can do, but I'm just trying to hit some of the highlights. Let's move on. Pets. If you have pets, make sure that beyond the water you're keeping for yourself, make sure that you have extra water for your pets. Make sure you have extra food for your pets to have at least a week's worth. And then, make sure that you have treats, because if you have good dogs like my good boys, they love their treats. So anyway, make sure you've got plenty of pet food, especially if you don't have a generator that can keep pet food cold. Think about that. Maybe the refrigerated pet food may not last in a power outage. So make sure you've got non-perishable pet food if you don't have a way to continue keeping that pet food cool and good for a longer period of time in the event of power outage. All right, so in addition, I've added on my list leashes, harnesses, potty pads. I have some small dogs, so I can't take them out to use the potty when we've got hurricane winds and tropical storm force winds blowing around. So having potty pads is probably a good pro tip as well. And as pet carriers, that's another important thing, along with documents for your pet, especially if you're in an area where you are going to potentially evacuate. If you're going to go to a shelter, they're going to require that usually. So make sure you've got your stuff and all your ducks in a row, so to speak. If you have children, especially small children, I added that to the list to make sure you've got 1 to 2 weeks worth of diapers, wipes, formula, baby food, and any medications that they may need. Got to keep in mind that the little ones sometimes get scared as well. So if you've got any kind of special toys or special treats that maybe they like. It's good to have that stuff stocked up as well. Now, talking about prepping for longer outages and what I like to call the luxuries. We'll talk about that next. So, surge protector, battery power backup. I've got an example here. They're not very expensive. You can get them online. This is basically a temporary solution to help. So this is going to help. I can plug in a lot of devices to it, plug it directly in the wall. It's got a battery in it. So even if the power goes out, I can keep my TV running, my internet running, whatever I choose to plug into it. Maybe microwavable foods, whatever it is. And you can decide what's important for you. I've got a fish tank and aquarium, so being able to plug those in to keep it running and have that filter going is important as well, because if there's a long power outage, obviously I'll have to get more creative, but in the short term, that can assist for maybe a few hours. Everyone's different. Read the information, check online. There's a lot of different options, but you can get a better feel for what that specific device is capable of. So that's one extra thing that can help make your life a little more comfortable in a shorter term power outage. Propane cook stoves or grills and extra propane. Last time we lost power, it's been years ago, but we actually had spaghetti that we cooked on a cooktop. So just, it makes it a little more interesting where you're not just stuck only eating baked beans, 'cause not just baked beans, but you get tired of canned goods sometimes. So nonetheless, that's a good option. A generator and extra gas. Make sure you don't run these indoors, okay? Very, very important. It's a safety concern. So for the wellness of yourself and your family, do not run a generator indoors or in a closed space. Okay, so a generator is great to have. We actually have two. We have one we just did purchase. We upgraded. We had a smaller generator. We just upgraded to a nicer name brand generator they had for sale at Home Depot. We happened to be stopping in yesterday, and up in St. Augustine, where we were at the time, they happened to have a sale. And so they had just got a shipment in. We got a $1,000 generator, name brand, for $500. So generator is really important and helpful in a power outage, especially for an extended period of time, because you can plug your fridge in, you can help keep your food from spoiling. It just makes life way more comfortable. All right, so board games and card games. You're probably going to get bored. Have a way to entertain yourself or your children. Books, it's another good one. Paper plates, cups, utensils, things like that are disposable. It's just going to make life a lot easier if you're not able to rent a dishwasher. Portable AC unit. So down here in Florida, hurricane season is usually hot outside. You mix hot and humidity, and the hot temperatures, it's not a fun environment for an extended period of time. And if you're stuck in your home for days, you're going to be very happy that you have a portable AC unit to plug into your generator. So I definitely would recommend that. A couple of things that I wanted to also mention. I don't have walkie-talkies currently, but I'm planning on purchasing a big set of walkie-talkies to be able to hand some out to some friends in the area. And that way we all have a way in the event cell towers are down and we don't have cell service. It's just another way to communicate with our neighbors and our friends, so that if there's something that we have and can help and they have a need, we've got the ability to get there and assist them if the roads are passable and safe to do so. And if they need help as well. And another thing I'm going to mention, I really don't know that it's necessary, but I heard a story after Hurricane Helene where a couple was saved because they just happened to have life jackets in their home. They weren't expecting a flood. They weren't in a flood zone. Their home flooded out of nowhere, and they happened to have life jackets. He and his wife put a life jacket on, and it literally saved their lives, having those life jackets. So, no harm in having inflatable devices if worse comes to worse. Now, again, it's better to just get out ahead of time if that's a possibility, but sometimes you don't know until it's too late, right? In some circumstances, some people don't, because storms can be unpredictable. So, I guess you could add a life jacket to something I had not really thought about until hearing that story, and it was pretty moving. So anyhow, that's something else you could add. Have a plan B. So have your docs together. have a plan in place, know where the shelters are, or have a friend maybe somewhere you want to stay that is maybe further from the coast or not in a flood zone, or have a hotel to stay in. Get out ahead of time if you can. If you can't, and you can get somewhere safely after the storm passes, just make sure you've got that plan B in place. And I would communicate with friends and family and neighbors and make sure that people know, because if you're just missing and people can't contact you, that's going to create a lot of fear. So having that plan B in place and communicating with your loved ones, I think is important as well. And then prep for cleanup. It's not a bad idea to be ready. I know my husband just put a new chain on his chainsaw, so he's ready for storm cleanup. So that's important. You know, if you're in an area that floods or your house is flooded before, I know there were a lot of homes that flooded closer to the intercoastal previously after Ian, and I saw people with sump pumps, you know, running the pumps and pumping the water out of their house, and they were able to get the water out quicker that way. And I think probably the less time water sits in a home, the better. So just things to think about with cleanup afterwards after a storm like this, depending on where you're at. So hopefully if you're in an area like that, hopefully you don't stay and you evacuate your house, because that can be a really dangerous situation. But nonetheless, know what's important to you and your family. Outside of this list, I'm sure there's a lot of other things that could be added to it. But if you've got extra needs in your family, just be aware of that. You know, look out for your neighbors and people you know that may have medical needs. Some people may have medical needs and devices that they've got to have power to run. So helping to make sure that those people have been able to evacuate safely. I think coming together as a community, it's just important to look into those things and help one another. I was really impressed last time after Ian. There were some areas that had extended power outages and a lot of trees down and things of that nature. And I was just so impressed with how the community came together. So I'm sure that hopefully we won't have a major event here. Hopefully everything will be just fine, but being safe and prepared rather than sorry and ill prepared, I think is just a smart way to go. Anyhow, I hope this helped. If you've got any extra pro tips, please comment below, add the tips. I would love to see them, and I'm sure it could help somebody else in need, because clearly there's a lot of people that really need some more information and that could really use the tips and help. So thank you so much for your time. Hope everybody's safe, well, and hopefully I will be able to check back in with you with a good report after the hurricane. Till next time, I'll see you. Bye.